Yo, what up guys? It's TPG. Yo guys, what up? It's TPG. So today we're going to be doing a One Piece Set 3 tier list featuring the Yamato and Luffy starter decks that just came out at the time we're recording this video. A lot of people say they don't change the meta too much, but I actually think they change things quite a bit because not only is Yamato basically a scuffed Whitebeard for yellow, where yellow has this problem where the leaders aren't doing a whole lot, right? Like you could play starter deck Big Mom, and that's probably the most proactive one, or you could be playing Katakuri. Now the problem with Katakuri is that while it's pretty good in person in my opinion, online I think goes from being a tier 1 deck to probably tier 2. Because having that secret knowledge be secret only to your opponent is very strong, but when that secret knowledge becomes public knowledge to both players, it becomes not that good. So Yamato actually allows us to have a better online leader than Katakuri in my opinion. Basically just being a scuffed Whitebeard, and that's all she is doing, but it's actually quite strong in yellow. So that being said, let's hop right into this tier list. Okay guys, so I'll have this tier list in the description down below, but I do want to go through this. This tier should be here. Okay guys, so I will have this tier list in the description down below in case you don't agree with some of my choices, but let me know which choices you would change and what you think of the tier list. So to start with, we have Zoro. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think this takes too much thought or too much explaining. I think Zoro's still the best deck in the game. Zoro, Whitebeard, and so I'm gonna put it in tier 1. Tier 1's gonna be kind of tight. I think the rest of the tiers will be a lot more fleshed out. Next we have Law. So Law could be argued to be tier 1, but I think there's a definitive difference between Zoro. I think there's a definitive difference between what Zoro and Whitebeard have than what Law has. I think a good player can play Zoro and Whitebeard to a first place finish, but it takes a great player to take Law to a first place finish. So I'm going to put Law into 1.5. OG Luffy, or not OG, but set 1 Luffy. This is like a tier 3 deck. I thought this was cute with film when I was first experimenting with film, but we've sort of realized that, Kid is just the de facto best leader for film. So we have Odin. So Odin really is just not as good as Kinemon, right? I think Odin has some things going for it. It's definitely not as bad as old Luffy. So I think I'll put it in tier 2 for now, and then maybe we can flesh this out more later. Dofi, I think Dofi is either a tier 1 deck or a 1.5 deck. Realistically, Dofi has some high-end tops, but nothing too crazy. Again, I think it's the same as Law, right? Where I think it takes a very good pilot to pilot Dofi to a first place finish. Where Zoro and Whitebeard do allow for a little more error. Whitebeard a little less error now due to the ban list. But if I were to change anything, I think at the end we might be putting Law and Dofi into tier 1, but we'll see how the rest of the tier list shapes up. Blurple Kaido, I'm not gonna lie guys, I think the Blurple decks are just straight cope. I think Kaido's probably a little better than Croc. I'm gonna put Croc above Luffy. I think Luffy is just so dog. Speaking of dog, we have King. I think King is just the worst leader in the game. In fact, I'm going to create a new tier just for King. I think King is just abysmal and not good and just upsetting overall. I think King. Why does I keep doing that? I think King is just not worth the space on a tier. So there's where King is. Whitebeard, this is a tier 1 deck. Definitely one of these two is definitely the best deck in the game right now. I'm actually going to move Law and Dofi up for now because I think 1.5 is about to get really fleshed out and just become full of a lot of decks, but I think these are the 4 decks to beat right now. And I think there's definitely an argument to moving Law and Dofi down a peg. Garp. I've seen some people cooking with like Straw Hat Garp, Straw Hat Navy Garp, and like that's cute. But I think being a 4-life leader is actually quite detrimental to Garp. For now, I'm gonna put him in tier 3. But I actually, he might be able to be tier 2. So 1.5, we have Keenamon. So Keenamon's just like a really good leader. Probably the best leader, not the best leader Green has. Film Kid, I think, is the best. But I think Keenamon does a lot of unique stuff with, you know, the Kozuki Odin and whatnot that came in set 2. So definitely, you know, be wary of Keenamon. I think he still exists. I don't think he's nearly as prevalent as he was, but I think he is still a threat to deal with. Sanji, so this was like meant to be the film leader in my opinion. Like it's like a vanilla based deck, but it's just ass cheeks. Like it's not very good. I mean, maybe it's tier 2, but I don't even think it's as good as like Odin, so I'm gonna move it to tier 3. Ivankov, Oh the Mighty Have Fallen. This was my first meta deck. It was definitely a tier 1 deck in set 2, but it's tragically fallen to tier 2. Now having a full hand is just something you have to do, and just outlasting your opponent just is not going to work very well with the way the game is currently shaping up. Magellan. So Magellan was like a tier 3 deck, and then people realized it actually has a lot of really strong plays and can be quite a powerhouse. I'm going to go 1.5 for Magellan. I think Magellan has a lot of strong control potential as well, especially with minusing your opponent's Dawn. Z. So Z was like the de facto purple deck, or at least everyone thought it was going to be, having that film stuff, but it's not very good. It's probably, I'm going to put it in tier 2. I think it's an okay deck. The purple-black synergy does exist somewhat, and I think, you know, some of those cards in the film deck are pretty strong and do synergize okay with Z. Smoker, I do think Smoker is the best black leader. I think it's the only one that actually does anything. So I'm going to put Smoker in 1.5. I actually do think, though, that Lucci is strong, but I also think, we'll talk about it when we talk about Star Deck 8 Luffy. I think Star Deck 8 Luffy could see some play, and I'll talk about why when we get there. So for now, I'm going to put Smoker in 1.5. Ace is cute. It's sort of like this OTK deck, but it only uses its leader mostly. I'm going to put it at the top of tier 2. I think it's sort of like this weird gatekeeper deck where it plays all of these event cards that you really have to play around well in order to properly navigate a matchup versus this deck. Kuro's a joke. This is actually just worse kid. Like, why you would ever play Kuro's beyond me. And something weird I've noticed about One Piece is a lot of these leaders tend to just fill up the bottom tier. A lot of them are just not very good and not very competitively viable. And then there's like a select echelon that's like okay, and then like a even fewer echelon that's like very good. Arlong, I think Arlong's cute actually. I think Arlong has some neat things it can do. I'm gonna put Arlong in tier 2. I'm gonna put it at the bottom of tier 2 for now, even though I think actually it's probably better than Zephyr. So I'm gonna put it above Zephyr. Nami, I think Nami's actually so cool. I want to put this deck in tier 1.5, but unfortunately I don't think it is. It's the super unique OTK strat, not OTK, but it's the super unique kill strategy where you actually don't even have to touch your opponent. It plays a lot like Security Control and Digimon, and you just play a lot of event cards that trigger to draw you cards, and then you play cards to mill cards from your deck. But it does heavily rely on what your opponent's doing, and I've noticed the black matchup is almost unwinnable. A lot of decks have bad matchups, but those bad matchups are not straight up unwinnable, and I do not think Nami can beat a black deck, or an adequate Nami player can beat an adequate like Marine player, Navy player. I've been so close so many times, but I just can't do it. I'm open to being proven wrong though. Iceberg. So Joe Dobby hyped this deck up a little bit, showed a little bit of what it can do. I still don't think it's as strong as Magellan, but I don't even know if it's like tier 2. I think Josh is just a little cracked, and when he does these things, he can just sort of, you know, go crazy. So I'm going to put Iceberg in tier 3 just because I don't think it's that strong overall. Rob Lucci. So I know I said Smoker's the strongest black leader, but I think it could be Rob Lucci or Smoker. So Lucci is a restander, so he's sort of like Kid in the sense that he can swing twice, but I don't think that's as good as what Smoker does, because Smoker allows you to get that -1 cost on an opponent's character, which helps move your game plan forward. And I get that Rob Lucci does actually work with the CP9 cards, but I'm just not a Rob Lucci believer, but I'm also not like a Rob Lucci hater. I think Rob Lucci and Smoker are relatively equal in terms of black decks. I just like Smoker a little bit more because it seems to move the strategy of the Marines forward, whereas Lucci is just like cool, I can swing twice, which is good, but you know. Black, yellow, Big Mom. I think this one was overhyped. I actually think now, knowing what we know, this is the worst of the yellow leaders. But I actually still don't think it's like tier 3. I think all the yellow leaders are quite okay. So I'm going to put Big Mom at the bottom of tier 2. It's probably above Z. I just feel really bad moving Z to tier 3, but I might do that because so far everything's been above Z. So I'm going to move Z to the top of tier 3. Katakuri. So Katakuri is either a tier 1 deck or a 1.5 deck, and I don't quite know where to put it. Like, I think against all these 1.5 decks it does really well, but into all of these 1 decks it struggles. So for that reason, I'm gonna put it at the top of I'm gonna put it at the bottom of tier 1. I think it's very strong, but I definitely think it takes a very strong player as well to pilot this deck optimally. So that being said, I'm gonna put it at the bottom of tier 1, but I could very easily see it being the top of 1.5. Luffy. I was not a Luffy believer, and then Russell Lepar topped with a Luffy at Gen Con, and his list was very cool. It was very heavy, meant to punish these Law, Zoro, and Whitebeard players, and I think that is a really unique way to pick a leader. And I think this Luffy just has a lot going for it. I'm going to put it at 1.5. I'm going to put it top of 1.5. I actually think it's better than most of these over here. And you'll see I am trying to organize this in terms of what I actually think the best decks are. So yeah, I'll put Luffy there. Film Kid is actually so cool. I think Film Kid is the best deck in 1.5. I think Nobu got me believing on Film Kid. I think this deck is absolutely real, and you should be on the watch for Film Kid. It can do so many different things, and it's so strong. Crocodile, I like the idea of Crocodile. I don't think Crocodile is very good. I feel mean putting it in tier 3 because I don't think it's like garbage like these decks, but I don't think it's like tier 2 is like playable, right? I don't think Crocodile is playable. I think Croc's tier 3. I think Kaido's tier 2. I think Kaido's still like relatively playable. I think Onigashima is just a very strong field spell card, and what it does for Kaido's game plan overall is just very strong. And then 10-drop Kaido is just a menace, and it can just 10-drop Kaido can just win boards on its own if your opponent was overextending and doesn't have enough cards to recoup from that. I think Kaido is very similar to Royal Knights and Digimon. I think it's this noob stomper deck where like bad players just don't really have a chance of beating Kaido. But unlike Royal Knights, I don't think Kaido has gotten enough new support to actually keep this deck relevant. So I'm going to put him tier 2 for now because I think you'll run into it, and when you do, you'll have to be ready for it. Film Shanks is like almost king tier. This is awful. This is the first Shanks they gave us, and it's so bad. Like Dawn -3 for some powers, like so bad. So yeah, Film Shanks. It's still better than probably like Crocodile, but actually no, it's definitely not. I think Crocodile is actually like, you know, better than like Sanji. But Film Shanks is probably better than like OP1 Luffy. Sakazuki is okay. I think the problem with Black is Black has like the opposite problem of Purple. I think Purple is a very strong deck with just not very quality leaders, and I think Black is like the opposite. I think Black is, while it's like the card quality is pretty good, I think the leaders are very good for Black as well. I don't think there's a single bad Black leader. I'm going to put Sakazuki at the bottom of tier 2. I do think he's probably the worst out of all of them, even the new Luffy, and I'll explain why here in a minute. But, you know, I do think he's playable. Started at Big Mom, I think is a very good yellow leader. I'm going to put it above Kinemon in tier 1.5. I actually might move Kinemon down to tier 2 at the end of this. We'll see. But I think starter deck Big Mom's pretty good as well. Especially on webcam, I think you could argue that Katakuri goes down like a tier and a half maybe. And Big Mom then becomes one of the better yellow leaders. So the Black Luffy is weird because we have these proactive leaders for Black. We have Smoker, which minuses a cost and gains a power. We have Lucci, who gets to swing twice. And we have Sakazuki, who gets to pop some things. What does Luffy do? Luffy is your turn when an opponent's character is KO'd. Attach one rested Dawn to this character. That's not once per turn. So basically, you can blow up your opponent's board, and then you can attach like a bunch of Dawn to Luffy and just make him really big. And if there's one thing I know, It's in the late game. If your opponent is able to put, you know, anywhere between like 5 and 6 Dawn, or 5 and 10 Dawn on a character, it becomes very hard to block that character, and that character is almost guaranteed to hit. And I actually think because of the new Shanks that comes in this deck, as well as the current support that Black has, this Luffy's pretty decent. I don't think it's 1.5. Actually, it might be. I think it's probably about Kinemon level, or like, I'm gonna put it in between like Nami and Ace. I think it's like right about there. I actually think this leader has a lot of potential, and I'm just waiting for a black main to test this leader and try and find something to do with this leader. And lastly, we have Yamato. I'm about to become the Yamato YouTuber, guys. I think Yamato has so much potential and is so cool. Yellow has been my main for a while in the game now. I think Katakuri is just a really awesome leader. But my biggest gripe with Katakuri is sometimes I'm doing nothing. After a couple turns, I've looked at all of your life and all of mine, and I'm just doing it to do it at that point. And also on webcam, where about half of the One Piece events are, Katakuri is like not very good. He becomes, he turns your opponent's life into public knowledge rather than secretive knowledge to you, which makes him a lot less good because your opponent then can be like, okay, well, I don't need this Kuzan in my hand because I know I'm going to get one from life eventually because he has to attack me to win the game. And for that reason, I think Katakuri is like in this weird place. And I think Yamato, so if you don't know, Yamato says Dawn 1, if you're at 2 or less life, this leader gets plus 1,000. So on your turn, it's a 7k leader. On your opponent's turn, it's a 6k leader. And what do we know about 6k leaders? It doesn't matter if they say take 1 damage each turn, because that 6k is so powerful in terms of the blocking numbers and the amount of Dawn allocation your opponent now has to use. This card's really good. Especially when you consider a lot of these yellow cards actually burn your life. So if your opponent wants to play around it adequately by just not swinging at you till they're ready to kill you, well, I'm going to activate it anyways because I'm going to burn my own life. Also, yellow has one of the best 2k counters, like pools, in the game. We have both Puddings, Sanji, Strusen, and now the new Yamato. All of these cards are very, very good. Not only as 2k counters, but also cards to play if you need to. Strusen is probably the worst, and Strusen literally says pop an opponent's character at the cost of 1 or less. Like, that's pretty good, especially into like Zoro or Law. That's quite good. You can pop their choppers, you can pop their Makinos, you can pop so many good cards and set them back. And so I think Yamato is actually, this is my hot take. If you guys know me, I'm a hot take like god. I want to put Yamato in tier 1. I really do. Do I think it can compete with these decks? I do. But I think it takes a very, very good pilot to do so. So for that reason, I'm going to put it in 1.5. I'm going to put it by Film Kid. I think it is a very strong leader, and the support that it gets is also very good. So that is the tier list, guys. Let me know what you think. If you have anything you would change or any opinions, let me know in the description in the comments down below, and I'll try and respond to all of those. That being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace. Thank you, Pirates, so much for watching this tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you thought of this video. If you liked it, go check out the links in my description down below. There's more places you can find videos from me or content from me, and just get more of my content and more of me. That being said, I hope you guys enjoy this, and if you did, I'll see y'all next time. Bye.